with the second contribution, which is entitled Space and Time in Hybrid Teaching and Learning Environments, Two Cases and Design Principle. It is presented by Teemu Leinonen. I hope I'm pronouncing it well.
For today, I will present the paper we wrote with Tiina Mäkelä. I guess I'm now sharing the screen with you, which is titled Space and Time in Hybrid Teaching and Learning Environments, Two Cases and Design Principles. And this relates partly to the COVID era as well. The one of the cases is from my own course, which been a kind of blended learning, but for the COVID reasons, I would say that I redesigned it to be more hybrid teaching and learning, the course itself. And the other case is from Tiina's institution, the University of Jyväskylä, which was designing a space, a bit like what we heard from the keynote, designing a library space for hybrid teaching and learning. So the aim of designing the space was to make it accessible for this kind of teaching and learning. But the challenge we realized with both of the cases or with the ongoing discussion is that we don't really have a very good conceptual idea what is hybrid teaching and learning or hybrid teaching and learning environments. We talk a lot about them, but I guess we use the term in a different ways. And we wanted to analyze these two real life cases where the concept has been used. And of course, look the literature and existing research on the topic as well. But in a way, there was this action research approach. We wanted to develop certain design principles, like a learning design principle, something which could help us ourselves and our colleagues to design hybrid teaching and learning in the future. So in a way, very practical action research approach in here too, that when we've been experimenting something, we want to study them to get an idea that how and what really happened in those cases. So I want to start with this very classical picture. I'm sure you have seen this. This has been going around for at least 15 years in the distance learning circles. The Miller reference was the earliest which we found, but used by many people, of dividing the distance learning ideas into 4 fields where there is a different time, same place, or different time, different place, or then there's the same time, same place, or same time, different place. And a very classical way you can see the face-to-face lectures, seminars, tutorials is the classical classroom teaching. And then the same time, different place is something which many people call the hybrid teaching. But actually the hybrid would require that these are blurring these separations of them. So when we are conceptualizing the hybrid teaching and learning environment, we wanted to look not only the tools used, the technology used, what is the video conference system or what is the physical space where this happens, but look the whole educational arrangements, including the pedagogical arrangements, the kind of service design, the practices, the participants' activities and interaction in the environment where the learning happens, which people call hybrid teaching and learning. So variation in time and place, the physical virtual spaces and tools, looking the whole picture in our analysis. And as I mentioned already, we were having 2 cases, one which was a library space design or architectural design, you could even call about it, integrating technology to the existing library space and design it precisely for hybrid teaching and learning. So the Library of University of Jyväskylä wanted to respond to the request by the faculty and design a specific space for that purposes. And then the other case was my own course I was teaching and which been a kind of blended learning with all the materials online, but then having the classroom sessions as it is a studio course and I got to move it to be hybrid in a way that we were having some of the students present, some of them were online, partly because of also travel restrictions. Some of the students were abroad and they couldn't attend, and as it is a compulsory course, we thought that we must provide them the flexibility. Normally in art and design, the studio courses are these, which happens in a one space, and we use to tape the boards and are in the one space always doing the studio studies, which means a project-based learning, doing some project for as part of your studies in the course. So anyway, here's actually quite not very good pictures, but there's a space which was designed for this hybrid teaching and learning in the library. It has multiple microphones and cameras, and you can rearrange the thing, and you can have a small group work, and you can have tablets where the remote participants are taking part into the group work, and so on. Also very sophisticated audio system, making it possible that there's no challenges with the people hearing what's happening in there. And here's one picture from my course, where the students, I mentioned that it was a studio course, so students were practicing design consulting. So they were having NGOs as customers, and they were coming up with the design proposals for the customers. In here, there's a presentation which took place with the customer, which was the Finnish Red Cross, and the students were presenting. So the whole presentations were also online. The 4 people from the Finnish Red Cross were attending to the presentations and giving feedback for the students as well. So few words about the research data and analysis. This is a qualitative research. We collected data, video recordings from the test sessions of the physical space, and also the video conference sessions were partly recorded. There were written feedback from the students. Also the study journals, what the students were writing, were analyzed. We did a more like an ethnographic way of not coding the data, but rather looking it by looking on significant relevant points in there, clusters of meaning, and then by 2 researchers in the data sessions to discuss that what are the significant findings in there. So very qualitative way of analyzing the data. And then from the conclusions of analyzing the data, we decided that we want to present the results as this kind of design principles, something which could help ourselves and our colleagues to design for hybrid teaching and learning. So if we get back to the classical picture of these different time and different place, we would say that hybrid teaching and learning is actually combining all these. In a way, the lower corner, the libraries, learning centers, self-driven labs, studios are infrastructure that all the universities already have. You could say the recorded media. Some of the universities have the lectures recorded and have online learning materials in there. Some universities are providing blogs for writing learning diaries or journals, wikis, podcasts, discussion forums, and of course the classical books are provided by the universities. But the upper part is interesting, that how do we merge the face-to-face and the online when it happens in same time, the synchronous part of that. And for that purpose, we have these 5 design principles which are supposed to help people. First of all, which is quite obvious, we must consider the access to required tools. If the teachers don't have the tools and the infrastructure or the support to set up these things. So for instance, in case of University of Jyväskylä, the library is a centralized space for providing the support and the infrastructure. So if the teacher goes over there, there's an expert who knows how to use the equipment and will set it up for you. So your class will be partly in there and partly online. Another thing what we found out that one must make a decision that are you designing primary different place or same place? So you must have a priority which way you design. Are you looking for that people are in the classroom and you are providing them remote access, or are you making it fully online so that anybody may attend from their own location? But this is a decision which must be done when you design these things. And finally, a very designery way of thinking, often less is more, and then the good or the God even is in the details. So pay attention to the details and try to think about that sometimes less technology or less hassle is better than more. So answering access to required tools, infrastructure and support is super important. Must be always remind when you design for hybrid teaching and learning. And then about the primary same time, different place, or same time, same place, which is also interesting that sometimes it might be useful even to have a same place, but ask people to use the video conference. It sounds like a really weird, but in a classroom situation, if you have remote participants, it might be a good idea that everybody has a laptop in the same space and they are using it and following the discussion through that. There's also advantages like the chat and sharing links and things like that, which might make it better. So we need to think about flexibility and student autonomy. At least in our university, students are requesting that. They say that, well, why can't you provide the Zoom in your on-site class? I'm traveling, I have a baby, I have this or that in my life, I can't attend. Can you provide the Zoom session? And that is something we need to consider. It's super important that even if things are happening online, we can provide opportunities for face-to-face interactions. We may organize lunch, or we may organize a coffee session with the class. So invite your students to have a cup of coffee once in a while, even if the course is online. Those who are available and may come over may get the benefits of seeing in an informal setting. Anyway, the remote participants should be offered the possibility even if the course is on site. And then, of course, really important is the recordings. That I think this session is recorded too. So for later viewing, if you couldn't attend to the session, you can have a look of that and get an idea what happened in the class. So we think that these can be combined, that you can have a face-to-face webinars combined and also have the recordings for building learning materials, which is then accessible asynchronously in different time that suits for the students' needs. Then the other more designery things, design is always a matter of making choices and compromises. So we need to think very carefully, what do we use and what do we implement in our course? I think lecture is a great way of teaching, but that's not the only way. Combining lecturing, group work discussions is all possible. Also, with you have on-site students and online students, you can bring groups where there's online students and offline students working together on certain topics. That's all possible. Then super important from the teacher's point of view is that the cognitive load these courses. We are limited in that. And if you need to manage on-site and online students same time, it might become really stressful. So teaching assistants might be needed, that there's a separate person or co-teaching with two teachers. One is taking care of the online participants and one is taking care of the on-site participants and facilitating the discussion in there. And think about the details, as I mentioned already, the planning of these things goes to the end of the day, that how the details are, how easy it is for the student to attend and participate to the studies. So concluding, I think the hybrid teaching and learning is something which is combining these four areas on forms of teaching and learning. We are sensing that there's a certain trend of getting to the different place but the same time, which has a lot of advantages. First of all, it will give a rhythm for your students. They know that they must attend a class, even if it's happening online. So this idea of e-learning, people being and doing their studies and looking the lecture videos on their own time seems not to work very well. I've been very critical of the MOOCs idea because it requires so much self-esteem and self-regulation to attend on those courses. But if you have a schedule, your teacher is expecting you to be present in a certain hour, you more likely will attend and stay in the track of studies. The face-to-face is super, super important. Lectures are much more than just sharing the information. They are social events where you go for the coffee break and you have a conversation with your peers and with your lecturers as well during the breaks. All that builds the community and feeling of being part of the community, which is tackling on the same interesting topics what the course is about. So, few words about the discussion and conclusions. It seems to be that the trend is that this is growing field, freedom of physical space where learning takes place. It is for sure playing a more important role in the future. We should consider the students' opportunities, think about it from the service point of view. Do we provide them possibilities? This is super important from the accessibility point of view too, and an equal right to study, depending on your limitations in your life. Can we provide this with the new system? It is for sure a new challenge for the institutional learning, the universities. If this becomes a new normal, we have a huge task to get our teachers and academics and lecturers to adapt to this thing. There is a lot of opportunities too, which is the certain interplay between formal and informal learning. For instance, this My Studio course that the students were working with the customers, that was precisely possible because also the customers were having the wish that they attend to the workshops only online. It's faster for them. They use less time on that. So all the design workshop with the customers in my course were run on online, and the customers were super happy about that. This being written already in an OECD report, which is more about vocational education, that how the online hybrid learning may actually enhance the learning experience because it happens in a closer collaboration with the companies and industry where the people will end up to work. This is related to the authentic learning opportunities. The real world challenges is easier to bring in a hybrid teaching and learning situations. And quite surprisingly, I think that a lot of work will happen in a hybrid way as well. So actually the students will learn super important skills by exercising it in their studies. So flexibility, even empathy and creativity and problem solving is something which we may reach with these models. However, we are in the process of designing these, and we really need to be careful on coming up with the solutions. There's, in the other side, there's the well-being and quality of education, which is super important. We need to think about the social relations also related to the well-being. So we need to work on a co-design manner with the students and with the broader societal community to consider these solutions. Okay, I'm done. Thank you very much. I'm happy for answering possible questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any question?
I have a question. And first, I would like to ask about Peter's. You were talking about small Peter's mother, and yeah. I was wondering, all 20 minutes, why didn't you notice that everybody is following your back? You know, if you have come here.
Yeah. But that was not my hand.
I know, but you know, Peter's mother. So it's just joking. but actually I would like you to elaborate in 3 topics. And yeah, it's quite tricky to be for both audience. That first, why do you need mics and cameras at library? Wouldn't it be easier to rearrange these video conference or hybrid infrastructure somewhere else? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well,
sorry, I will just give these 2 more questions. And the second one is you were suggesting these recordings, but at the same time we are facing this, energy crisis, and maybe sometimes these digital recordings could considered as digital trash. It's the first aspect, and the second is we are announcing as lecturers our lectures to the students, and in case they are not having time to come synchronously remotely, why we think that they are going to have time in the future. So why we are considering these video sessions. It's like a philosophical, but it's interesting. And the last but not least, I would like to elaborate here is that if there's something surprising that came out from your study as well, like really breakthrough, we haven't read, so something really surprising. Thank you.
So 4 questions. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Can you repeat the first one? I go one by one.
Yes. The first one is about details.
Yeah.
How much do they matter if we talk about this video or audio quality? The second one is why do you need mics and cameras at the library?
Let's go one by one.
Okay.
So how much the audio or the video matters?
Yeah.
It definitely matters a lot. It's like, of course, the whole thing that this been becoming is thanks to Zoom. It's obvious that when the Zoom came, and of course it got much better during the COVID, made it possible. So I think, of course, it's getting all the time better. I would design the video conference system for hybrid teaching and learning a bit differently, and I'm sure it's getting better and better. Virtual reality is interesting with the combined video as well, for instance, which will make it more rich and spatial. I think in a classroom situation, I think many of you have experienced this less and less these days, but it used to be very common that the beamer just doesn't work. You go and you try to make your presentation and the projector doesn't work. So it was like unusable, the ICT technology still 5 years ago or 10 years ago, practically in a classroom teaching. So better would be not to even use it in many situations. The video conference now is almost like a always on, always available. So that has becoming matter enough. So yes, it really matters. And a good classroom designed for precisely for that purpose is definitely better than something that is not designed. So why library? Because the library can provide in a centralized format both the support and the tech. So we have really good classrooms as well with the tech. But when it's in a one place, it's just like an organizational system that there's a one class with the support present 24/7 practically for the teachers. So no accidents happens when you go and organize your hybrid teaching and learning in there. It is also the library has like a multiple spaces. So if you put them to work in a small groups, those spaces are also integrated to the same system. So it's more like a logistics reason, the library for that. And then the third question was
what about these recordings? These we were telling about pros. I was bringing out some cons, but what do you think about this time usage of students if they don't have to come in real time? Or why should they come in the future? Because there's so much is happening in the life.
Well, I think the record. I think those are two separate questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think the recording is serving because it's so simple to do it anyway. So it doesn't matter if anybody will ever watch that. But it is a service. It is also a matter of accessibility. If you have automated voice to text, you can have subtitles in there. Also for students, especially with multicultural environment, they can stop. they can listen again, they can go back and words, they can make it slow, they can make it faster too. So I think it's a more like a service which should be used because it's possible, but also accepting that most likely nobody will ever watch them. So but it doesn't matter. It is in there, it's accessible and should be available for the students. And then the fourth question was?
Was there anything
really surprising? Yeah, I think the whole like a surprising is this well, this is a bit of like a side thing, not necessarily from the experiments we were having. It is the discussion about the hybrid teaching and learning in the more likely in the management side, that it is brought up as a concept without nobody knowing what does it mean, and I think that's very confusing for the faculty. That at least in our university and in the University of Jyväskylä, people started to talk that all must be now hybrid teaching and learning, and nobody was defining what does it mean. So and that was a part of the reason why we wanted to study this more closely. With the student actual activity, well, maybe two other surprising that how badly the teachers were equipped with the skills. Those who were working with this library session testing it, we realized that most of the teachers, most of the lecturers, most of the professors were totally lost with the tech itself. And then another surprise that how good the students were with that. Like the students didn't have any problem of running a workshop online with the customer, which is quite challenging exercise. You need to plan, you need to organize the thing, you need to present yourself in a video conference and get people working together online. And they were super good in that. So kind of the gap between the faculty and the students was surprising.